Hello, I'm Gary, this is Auckland Cycle Works, and I've got the Lego out because I want to tell you what I've been thinking about braking anti-rise. When it comes to the braking performance of our mountain bikes, it seems anti-rise is the only number that's ever quoted, but I've always felt that this one metric doesn't seem to describe what I feel when I've ridden different bikes over the last 25 years or when I've read reviews. And it's not just me, I've also heard this from some very experienced and tech-savvy riders. To explain what I mean, let's compare 4 different types of suspension design. A single pivot bike will typically have the highest braking anti-rise number and generally gets the least favourable review for braking performance. The next group of bikes are all short link 4 bars. This includes DW link bikes as used by Pivot, Ibis, Atherton, but also includes the Yeti Switch Infinity and the 3VO system from Ministry Cycles. This group of bikes have the next highest values for braking anti-rise, but they often get praised for having very good suspension performance under braking. Standard 4-bar linkage bikes, as used by Specialized, Transition, Canyon, White, and many others, form the third group. These bikes have a lower braking anti-rise value and are noted for just being relatively good and neutral under braking. The fourth group is a bit of an outlier. Many downhill race teams and race-focused brands have experimented with the floating brake arm. This allows riders and engineers the freedom to experiment with whatever braking anti-rise value they like. Positioning the connecting rod high can deliver less than 0%, and low can deliver way over 100%. Despite having the ability to choose whatever value they like, it seems that every floating brake system ends up settling on an anti-rise approaching 0%. So what's going on? Is more than 100% of braking anti-rise bad? Is 80 to 90% the very best? Is 45 to 65% just really, really nice and okay? Or is 0 to 15% actually the very, very best? There isn't a consistent trend here. It's almost as if there's something else going on that's being missed. So let's now look at this from a different perspective. As a designer, I want to know how to maximize the performance of the suspension system under braking. So the first thing I know I need is a benchmark. And it occurs to me that the suspension system itself, when freewheeling, is that benchmark. So then we take the suspension system from freewheeling to braking, we compare the mechanics, and then we measure the difference. It sounds like a simple idea, so how could we do that? Do you remember being told that bigger wheels are better because they have more rollover? Well, rollover is a very good measure of effectiveness for both wheel sizes and suspension systems. The total rollover in your bike is the rollover from the wheel plus the rollover from your suspension system. When you're freewheeling, this is easy to visualize and understand. With a normal low pivot bike, the suspension rollover is pretty much 0 because the axle path moves vertically. Raising the pivot point from here to here increases the suspension rollover when freewheeling by one whole Lego blob from 11 to 12, so that's a 9.1% increase in rollover. Now, when you hit the brake super hard, you lose all the rollover from your wheel because it's not rolling, and it's true to say that at maximum locked up braking, the swing arm goes directly from the pivot to where the tyre touches the ground. And this is cool because it shows that when your wheel rollover decreases to 0, your swing arm rollover increases, and that explains why your suspension still works. Now there's something else going on here too. As the swing arm shifts from here, freewheeling, to here, maximum braking, its length changes, and this changes the leverage ratio over the shock. Under braking, the rider's weight is pitched forwards, so the rear suspension has less rider weight on it, so a softer suspension is a good thing. Floating brake arms, and to a lesser extent the Trek ABP and Horselink 4-bar designs, all create more softening by reducing braking anti-rise. The brake caliper is mounted on the seat stay, so it rotates less. Less anti-rise means that the rear end will extend more under braking. So the bike will pitch forwards more under braking, which is kind of bad, but the suspension extends into a lighter and softer part of the suspension stroke, which is kind of good. So what we got? Let's take a high single pivot suspension design. It hits a bump that's this big. The total rollover when freewheeling is 10 Lego blobs from the wheel plus 2 from the swing arm. At maximum braking, there's a rollover of 5 Lego blobs, so that's a 58% reduction in rollover, and the swing arm length goes from 25 to 30, so that's a 20% reduction in leverage ratio. So this single pivot, high pivot design should lose about 45% of its suspension performance from freewheeling to max braking. If the brake caliper was mounted to a separate part, like a floating brake arm or a pivoting seat stay, we would also need to calculate how this modified anti-rise changes the leverage ratio. With this Lego version of the Auckland Cycle Works Marra, the effective pivot point is back here. So for the sake of simplicity, let's approximate that to a single pivot design. So when freewheeling, we've got a total rollover of 10 Lego blobs from the rear wheel and just over 2 from the swing arm. At maximum braking, the rollover is 8 blobs, which is only a 33% reduction, and the effective swing arm length goes from 15 to 25 blobs, which is 40% longer and gives a massive 40% increase in leverage ratio. Our patented Colarp suspension system is the only system where the increase in leverage ratio outweighs the decrease in rollover. And this explains why the Auckland Cycle Works Marra is getting such good reviews for its braking performance. Now, this isn't yet a standardized or mathematically validated model, and I do agree that these Lego illustrations aren't the most accurate way of showing what's going on, but I just wanted to put the point across in the simplest possible way. Comparing 0% brakes with 100% brakes is a bit extreme. The model would be a lot more friendly if we compared 0% with, say, about 80% of braking. That would reflect how we ride our bikes a bit better and where we want that performance to occur. But that's a hell of a lot of extra complexity to go to, and it doesn't change the basic principle of what I'm saying here. And that is, by moving the pivot point upwards and backwards, it's possible to massively improve braking performance. And this is a long and complicated video to say something really quite simple. So, thank you for watching. Do you think this was a useful way of describing braking performance, and does it help you understand what's going on? It'll be useful to know what you think, so head down to the comments and let me know what you think. I'll see you there. Cheers.